Welcome to the Amplifier Podcast, the show where the best in business discuss how you can grow your business best. I'm Wyatt McPherson, I produce this show, and this episode Don Cooper is joined once again by the ambassador of hope himself, Andre Norman. On his third episode of his 3-episode series with us, Don and Andre will be discussing what he believes are the best approaches to racism and what everyone out there can do to help. Once again, I truly do mean it when I say that Andre's story and his mission are some of the most inspiring out there, so if you haven't already, definitely go back and listen to our previous 2 episodes with Andre, and as always, I truly do hope that you enjoy this episode of the Amplifier Podcast.
You know, a big part of what we've been talking about, you know, right from the street corner to the prison system was drugs. And you're really heavily involved with addiction recovery, and our friend Joe Polish with Genius Recovery. Give me your perspective on that whole issue.
In America, the issue with drug use and drug abuse is a racial one still. In the 70s, Black people used heroin, and they were in the streets dying, and they were selling drugs. Nicky Bonds, Frank Lucas, and all these other big kingpins all sent to jail for hundreds of years for selling drugs. The people who used them given 10, 20, 30, 40-year sentences for using them. And it's been that. Someplace in the 2000s, somehow white kids in the suburbs got a hold of heroin, which they changed the name of, from heroin to opioids. So you can't use the same drug that Black kids use. We're going to call your drug something different. So white kids started using opioids, and lo and behold, they started dying. Now all of a sudden, it went from a crime crisis to a health crisis. There was a time, if I walked into a police station with a bag of heroin, I get beaten in the head and given 10 years. They encourage white kids to run into the police station. I got heroin, I want to change my life. They're trained, take the drugs, throw them away, take the kid to a treatment center. Those are in suburban communities, run and governed by people with money. In the inner cities, you can't walk into no police station with a bag of heroin talking about, I want to turn myself in, I need help. They're sending you to jail as your help. In the suburbs, it's a treatment center. We used to sell weed. My first hustle was selling weed on the corner. And lots of people in black communities sold marijuana and got arrested and sent to jail for tens of hundreds of years. And all of a sudden, it's now legal to sell marijuana. So on the same corner that I stood, there's a white businessman with a refinery, an outpost, whatever you want to call it, a dispensary, selling to my old customers. You got the white guys selling to my old customers legally, but I'm still in jail doing 30 years for selling to them. You go home and just pay taxes on it. Nobody's ever said, well, damn, we made it legal. We took their corners, took their clients. Let's let the guys who had weed charges out of jail. No, let's leave them in prison anyways. You know why? We don't really like them that much. So you change the law, but you don't say, okay, well, let's fix it. There was a time we had prohibition. We're selling alcohol was illegal. When they changed the law, I don't know if they let the people out who had prohibition charges. I believe if you're in jail right now for marijuana with no additional charges, all marijuana charges should be dismissed. If you had a gun charge, a robbery charge, keep that. The marijuana sentences should be dismissed based on the fact that you're now selling on the same corner we did. So you have to have the conversation of fairness around the way it looked, the crack laws of the 90s. If Black folks disproportionately sell crack, white folks disproportionately sell powder. It's the same substance in a different form. Crack cocaine, mandatory 10 years. A kilo powder, you can get probation. They created laws targeting Black people versus targeting white people. Now they're saying, okay, let's make this fair. Let's go back and make it fair for real. But nobody wants to have a discussion of, from a criminal justice standpoint, making it fair. I believe everybody needs treatment, have access to treatment, have access to help, white, Black, Spanish, Asian. And though there's a lot of kids suffering, and in the suburbs, there's very little information on what you need to do to save your kid. There's very little drop-in and treatment centers set up to help save your kid. So we in the inner cities who've been dealing with this from day one, because drugs have been dropped in our neighborhoods for whatever reason, we can come out and help you. I've helped a lot of white families through this problem because they just didn't have the expertise in dealing with drug addiction, drug usage, the personality and the behaviors. So we're coming out from the inner cities, helping the suburbs because we want to keep their kids alive. All kids deserve to live regardless what color they are. But at the same time, let's get back to okay, why are there, we don't, in the inner cities, we don't grow weed, we don't manufacture crack, we don't manufacture heroin, we don't do none of it. We don't manufacture guns, but it's flooding our neighborhoods.
Right.
How is this possible? Why for 50, 60, 70 years, every Black community has been overrun with drugs? And nobody asks how it got there. We've had this scenario out in California where 2 guys were put on trial with the Oliver North case for bringing crack into the neighborhoods. There was allegedly, or whatever, proven, and I don't know how far they were with the Oliver North case, came through the CIA. It was funded, the CIA, to help this guy, Iran-Contra, whatever the scenario was, that we're going to help you get guns, you sell drugs to the Black guys in California, and we're just going to turn a blind eye. So our system is messed up. White people and suburban people have a problem with denial. They're denying their kids are at risk and are subject to. And that is 95% of the problem. White folks in the suburbs or suburban folks have to get past this denial thing that my kid wouldn't do that, or that my kid would never do that. He has every opportunity and advantage on the planet. No, your kid is a kid, and he's subject to, and he sees all the time, and she sees this environment, and environment will change the person before the person changes the environment. So denial is a huge issue in the suburban community. And then actually what to do in a crisis is a problem in the suburban communities, because nobody's ever taught soccer mom how to deal with daughter or son smoking weed or sniffing coke.
How do you deal with that? I mean, what are the steps to deal with, kids doing that, and what are the steps with dealing with addiction? Like, I know you know a lot more about this than me.
Step 1, education to the parents. We can educate the kids, but if the parents are ignorant, it's going to fall right back on the kid again. We need to educate the adults. Step 1, and the adults include school teachers, the adults include the police, the adults include the courts, the adults. Educate the adults. Step 1. But what happens is nobody wants to talk about drug addiction in the suburbs. It's the big secret, because you're all well-to-do on your way to become senators or whatever you're going to be. That nobody wants to know that little Johnny's getting high, or little Sarah's getting high. We can't talk about that. So because it's going to make our family look bad. I work with a lot of families, and their number one thing is embarrassment. How can we do this when nobody knows? I had one family say to me, the son wanted to talk about his addiction, and the mother said, no, he can't talk about the addiction. I said, why? We're a prominent family. It'll make us look bad. But you're telling him don't talk about his therapy and his recovery. So he can't come home and talk about recovery because it's an embarrassment to them.
I think a lot of people don't even know what addiction is. Some people think, depending on that word implies different things to different people. Some people think addiction is, oh, you're a junkie and you're shooting up needles. Some people think addiction is
addiction, right?
That's an addiction right there, right? I mean, I've got one, right? I stopped smoking a long time ago. I chew Nicorette gum, and I am physically and I would say emotionally addicted to getting that fix of nicotine. And I know I am, period. And coffee, the same thing, right? I mean, I don't know how many jugs of this stuff that I drink throughout the day.
And it's unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, Joe talks about workaholism is the acceptable addiction. Alcoholism is the hidden addiction a lot of the time, right?
Sugar kills more people than anything else.
Yeah.
But it's completely acceptable. There's some restaurants, we'll call them restaurants. They're not really restaurants. They're junk food places. And it kills more people than anybody else. Because it doesn't kill you in 3 days. It's okay.
I did a program 3 years ago and it was a 5-night program on addiction. And it was really eye-opening to me because people misperceive what addiction is. They think it's physical or they think it's emotional. And the best definition that I got from, of any substance was, is it having a negative impact on one of the 5 major things in your life, on your family, on your relationship, on your job, on your health, physically, so when you look at, is there a negative impact on one of these major things going on in your life? And if the answer is yes, then it's a problem with some sort of abuse of a substance. And if you can just come to terms with that, is it affecting my family? Is it affecting my health? Is it affecting my finances, my work, my relationships? If it's one or more of those things, it's having a negative consequence, then it's something that you need to deal with and just own it that way. I mean, I think if you change the definition of, are one of those major aspects of your life having a negative impact because of what you're doing with whatever that substance is, then you can change the conversation of addiction is this definition versus addiction is I'm doing something that is having a negative impact on a major aspect of my life and I need to deal with it.
Right. Addiction means it doesn't happen to me yet. That's what addiction is. It hasn't happened to me yet, so it doesn't exist. Addiction is not real until it happens to you, until somebody that you love. So cancer is not real until somebody in your family gets it.
Right.
So I've seen a lot of cancer marches, a lot of cancer this, a lot of cancer that. My nephew got sick with cancer when he was 17, but he beat it. But I was locked up, so I wasn't there. Then my favorite sister got sick, and boom, that hit me right in the heart. Then my grandmother got sick, boom, hit me again. So now I'm aware.
Yeah.
Aware. Criminal justice, I was talking to a lady yesterday, and Black lady, school teacher, lived her life, went to college, doing great. And she had a situation where she got arrested arguing with her ex-husband. And she said some stuff she shouldn't have said. They arrested her. She went to jail. She said, oh my God, I didn't know it was like that. Nobody listened to me. Nobody cared. All this stuff. Now she had her epiphany moment of the criminal justice system is upside down. It's unforgiving. And so now she's on a quest of, oh my God, we need to fix this. Until it happens to you,
I think you got to have the conversations, right? I think everyone's got to be open to have this kind of a conversation and do it 1,000 times to make that awareness, and then pick your lane and what you're gonna get involved in.
We're not going to solve everything today. That's not the goal of this conversation. When I say I want to be the czar of the prison system, I'm saying, hey, put me in this lane. I don't want to be the czar of education. I don't want to be the czar of drug users. I don't want to be the czar. I want to be the czar of the prison system. So whoever out there is in that space says, hey, I can line up with that guy. So if that's your thing, even if your thing is the education component, oh, they have education in prison, they have therapy in prison, whatever. Become aware, then raise your hand and say, know something? I'm ready to step in.
What can people do to support you?
Raise your hand, become aware. I mean, if you buy my book, great. You know what I'm saying? I don't have anything that I'm selling of sorts. If you want to hire me to give a speech, cool. I mean, that's not my goal in life. My goal in life, if you want to support Andre Norman, reach out and tell me how I can help you make your awareness come to reality. You know what I'm saying? If you call me and say, hey, Dre, I got a speech for you to come over here, to come over there, my question is going to be not where is it and how much. It's, are we going to make a difference? Are we going to make an impact? Don't call me for a speech. Don't call me, hey, Dre, I'm going to give you $10,000. No. Answer is no. My question is, are we going to create an impact? Are we going to make a difference? Because if we're not trying to make a difference, then no. So what I do with all my speeches, if you say, hey, Drew, I'm going to hire you to come to Canton and give your speech on Friday. I'm going to say to you, if I'll come on Friday, but we need to come in on Tuesday or Wednesday and do 3 days of volunteer work in the community. In the native populations, in the schools, in the white schools, black schools, whatever you got. Let's go make an impact in the city and in the region. Then we'll give the paid speech on Friday. If you're not trying to make an impact in the community, don't call me. Don't call me.
Awesome.
Who you are, what you're talking about. Dial somebody else's number. There's 1,000 speakers that'll take your check. If you don't want to make an impact of some kind in your city, then I'm not the guy to hire. There's somebody else. There's a different type of peanut butter you can buy. So
that's awesome. I love that you do that. I love that you, when you parachute in, you want to make an impact in that community. And I think that part makes your message, your ambassadorship of hope, so much more valuable, right?
You can sit down and have conversations. It can be conversations at the local restaurant with 5 of your friends. We can go to schools. We can go to homeless shelters. We can go to churches. There's 1,000 things that we can do, that we can get on the phone and brainstorm. Where can we make a difference? But if the end of the whole thing is just Andre comes, gives a speech, gets a check, and goes home, no. So if you want to support me, let's have a conversation about creating impact. And I will have that conversation with you time and time again.
Awesome. Now you take donations to your Academy of Hope for books and that sort of thing as well, do you not?
Oh yeah, I'll send you the. I forgot. I wasn't even thinking. I'll send you the link to the donation page, and if people want to donate, that's wonderful. You know what I'm saying, we don't solicit. We do good work, and the work speaks for itself.
How do people get a hold of you?
How do you get a hold of me? You can go to my website, AndreNorman.com, AndreNorman.com, Instagram at Andre Norman, Facebook, Andre Norman, Twitter, Andre Norman, and LinkedIn is Andre Norman. So,
pretty common theme.
I try to keep it basic, you know what I'm saying? I went to public school. I try to keep it really, really simple.
Well, don't play it down, from public school, and you're now a fellow at Harvard, fellowship at Harvard. So it's a really cool journey. So inspired by what you do, man. And can't wait to try to figure out how I can help in some way.
You're already helping, man. We're getting on and telling people that we can have these conversations. Nobody's blunted and beaten. Nobody feels shamed or embarrassed. And we can have these conversations, and we're going to keep having these conversations. We want to encourage other people to have these conversations so we can heal. If we never heal the trauma, then we'll just always forever go forward. There's two white guys and a black guys having a legitimate conversation about some things of merit. We didn't skip over anything. And okay, cool. Nobody's mad. Nobody's hurt. Nobody's bleeding. Nobody's crying. Maybe I can have a conversation like that. We've given a template on having a conversation. So if you're not sure how to do it, watch this video and say, oh, they can do it. I can do it. So hopefully we've encouraged other people to have the conversation.
Thank you everybody so much for listening to this episode of the Amplifier Podcast. If you'd like to learn more or get in touch with either Don or Andre, then you can always do so at any time at the links in the description of this episode. Make sure you leave a 5-star rating. It truly does help us out a lot, and be sure to subscribe and follow so you never miss an episode. Thank you so much for listening again, and we will see you next time on the Amplifier Podcast.